Good afternoon, Coolest Coast. You're watching Coffee on the Coast. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Coffee on the Coast. I'm your host today, Tina Prigge. Welcoming back to the show, Tim Gadzinski of Manitowoc Public Library and Amy Meyer from Manitowoc County Historical Society. Hi, guys. So good to see you.
Hello.
So what's cool, Amy, is you are standing in front of a piece of Manitowoc County history. And before we get into the details of that, I just want to show that it is the same flag that is on this invitation to you, the viewing public, to come to an event that the Manitowoc County Historical Society will be having at the Manitowoc Public Library on Thursday, March 27th, 6 p.m. Okay, tell us about the significance of this flag, Amy.
Yes. So this flag has so much deep meaning, personal connections to our Manitowoc County area. But we've got to kind of go back in time a little bit to 1861. So what is happening? The Civil War is really coming together. We find out in Manitowoc that the first shots were fired. It doesn't take long for our citizens here to start rallying together and want to contribute to the war effort. So, of course, what do the young men do? They go off and they start training. You know, they've got their broomsticks, they're just twigs from a tree, and they start learning how to march and drill. But then we have all these women, the moms, the daughters, the sisters, they want to do something as well. So this time period, what are you creating? You're creating a flag. So the women got together and actually hand sewn this flag. But it's not that simple in 1861. First of all, where are you getting the material for this flag? It's not Manitowoc. Sorry. So the ladies are actually fundraising in 1861 to go down to Chicago and get red silk, white silk, and blue silk, because those are the common colors of the flag, right? So they go to Chicago, they get two of the three. They're able to get the blue and the red. They come back to Manitowoc and be like, well, we've got two out of the three. What do we do? Can you imagine this flag with just red and blue? It loses part of that significance, right? So, and this is, again, a tall tale perhaps, but we love this part of the story. There is a young woman who is a citizen of, at this time, it's the village of Manitowoc. We're not a city yet. We're trying to get there, but not quite yet. And she has white silk at home. So she's going to be getting married, hasn't quite made her wedding dress. He offers her white silk to make the flag. Under one condition, though. No one ever finds out who she is.
That's my favorite part of the story.
Yes. Well, to this day, we don't know who the young woman was, but she had approached Mrs. Gideon Collins, who was the wife of the village president, and presented it to her under that condition.
So we don't know, did she ever get married? Was her husband to be
No idea. I loved to think that if he was off going with the war effort, he came home, big happy family, happy life, and they looked at this flag many years later and said, that's our little secret.
Yeah. Okay. So how many women did it take to hand sew this? Do we know?
We don't exactly know. So there's not a lot of great records. They kept phenomenal records about the men who went off with this flag. So they gathered at Union Park and the women presented it to the men, but we don't have actual names. We don't even have an actual name for Mrs. Gideon Collins. Gideon is her husband's name.
Right.
So, things definitely have changed since 1861.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. So the women are preparing this flag because the men of the community are going off to war. So, like you said, they took this flag with them?
They did. So the ladies really wanted to create something that is a memento for them. The men going off with this flag, they're their brothers, their sons, their fathers. They're part of the community, and they wanted to have a piece to be like, you need to come home. This is your memory of home. We want to see you again. They didn't know would they be gone a couple weeks, a couple months. It ended up being a couple years. They didn't know what was happening. Manitowoc, which is why it's called Union Park, but the flag really was that symbol that was gifted to these young men who went off to fight.
How many men went off to fight? Do you know? Do we know that?
We do. There were 104 men that left with this flag here. And overall in Manitowoc County, we had over 2,000 that served in the Civil War effort. So a really great number. I believe it was like 1 in 5 served. When you think of the population, that's a large piece of the puzzle that's being removed from our community.
That's incredible. And then you said that this flag has had quite a journey, quite an adventure of its own. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So the men, they take it with them to Camp Randall, which is where they learn how to train. They formally receive that training. You know, here in Manitowoc, they were kind of just playing and guessing and trying to do the best that they could. Camp Randall, they are issued uniforms, actual equipment, things they're going to need in the Civil War. But they learned something pretty unique, that they cannot carry this flag with them into battle. It's illegal.
And why?
It's not the Union flag, so you can only take a Union flag with you. But the men, remember, they made a promise to those women who made this flag, and they are going to keep their promise one way or the other. So they hide it in their satchels. They hide it underneath their uniforms. They tie it around their waist. So if you're off in battle, you're getting sweaty, a little bloody, this flag it's been through it. But the story doesn't end there. It gets captured by the Confederates. It's gone. No one knows what happened to it. But obviously, we know because we see it today. The story kind of ends a little bit for as far as they know in Manitowoc County at that time. Of that original 104 that left, only 36 of those men return. Like that's a number right there that we should remember. They kind of forget about this flag. About 20 plus years later, there's a Philadelphia exposition. A man by the name of Judge Waldo happens to be there. And he sees this piece right here in the Wisconsin building. He knew exactly what it was and its significance. He's like, I got to bring that home. So we're indebted to him greatly for, first of all, being there, being in that building, and bringing this back home.
That's incredible. Okay, so they weren't allowed to carry it because it's not a Union flag.
Yes.
What makes it different from a Union flag?
So the style is a little bit different, but it clearly says on it, Manitowoc County, Wisconsin Volunteers. So just by looking at it, you're like, ooh, not official.
And what's happening in the blue square? What are we looking at?
Yeah, so there's an eagle in the center, but then stars going around the eagle.
And is that what the Union flag would have looked like at the time?
Similar, yes.
Okay. How many stars are there?
Oh gosh, on this one, I am not sure. I haven't counted in a long time.
Okay. I mean, I have no idea how many states were states at the time of the Civil War.
Yep. And so during the program next week, we will have a reproduction. This one is obviously here in our museum because it does have great significance to us. So seeing the original is great, but seeing the reproduction is pretty cool too.
If somebody wants to see the original, where do you have it on display?
Yeah. So it's in our Welcome Center. It's the large white farmhouse right off of our parking lot at our Manitowoc County Historical Society. And it is a story that we tell every visitor who walks in our door. Honestly, we tell them, check out the flag, learn its story.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to put this back up because you're going to be doing a recreation of the presentation of this flag to the Manitowoc County Historical Society that happened in 1925. And this is going to happen at the Manitowoc Public Library on Thursday, March 27th at 6 o'clock p.m. There's going to be a dramatic reading and a replica flag on display. What else do you want people to know about what's going to happen and what they'll see?
Yeah. So, obviously the story of the flag coming home isn't the end of it. We had over 2,000 men that served in the Civil War, and every single casket of a Civil War veteran had this flag draped over it until there were just 3 veterans left. They met and they're like, what do we do? We're the last 3 standing. What's the flag's future? So what do you do with a flag that isn't useful anymore? You're supposed to burn it. So there's a gentleman, George Schutte. He stepped in and he was like, hold on, wait a moment. I don't think we want to burn that. Yes, it looks a little rough. It has some holes, some tears, some sweat, blood, all the things. But this is a piece of our community. So he actually personally pays for it to be sent off in 1924, I believe, to get restored. So not restoring by today's standards, but it was the first step in preserving this flag. He then gifts it back to those veterans, and they gift it to our Manitowoc County Historical Society at the Manitowoc Public Library in March of 1925.
It happened at the library back in 1925?
It did.
So the library is the perfect location for this reenactment to be happening.
Yes. So not the same physical library, but at the time, what was the Manitowoc Public Library. So we're bringing it back pretty close to the date, not exactly on the date, but just a few days off.
And 100-year span, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Tim, where was the library 100 years ago?
First off, I bet you didn't know that I could not talk for that long, for one thing. But no, it was on 9th Street in Chicago, corner of 9th and Chicago, upstairs. It was still the Carnegie Library.
Carnegie Library. Yeah.
Is that building still there?
No, it's gone. It's where, which bank is there now? Across
Bank First.
Yeah.
Is on that property now.
Oh.
Right on, like 8th Street. Okay.
Yeah, and when Amy came to me with this idea, I immediately thought, we had to do it. I would have loved to have done it on the actual date, but the date turns out to be the last installment of Great Decisions for this year. So we're only off by 3 days, really. But, Great Decisions got in the way. But we're still doing it, and we're not doing it up in the Balkansky room either. That's one thing that people have been asking us. We're going to be doing it in that first floor atrium space where the evergreen trees are on display. People know it for that more or less, but it's going to be in a space that's befitting, the occasion.
Okay, that's awesome.
And we have some incredible volunteers who are literally recreating this ceremony where we were gifted the flag. So they've been studying their lines so we can do it justice, because you, again, only get one time to celebrate a 100th anniversary. And this flag deserves the recognition all these years later, because there's so many folks that don't know its local significance or its local story, or even why Union Park is Union Park. So part of the ceremony in 1925 was a retelling of how it was created and its journey. So you'll hear that. You can sing along with some of the patriotic songs, or you can take it all in and absorb this milestone moment for us, not only today in 2025, but also in 1925 and 1861. This is a piece that will transcend generations and continue to tell our local story.
Oh, that's incredible. So is this the first time that the recreation is being performed?
It is, yes. Yeah.
So you guys are making
premiere.
History about history. Okay, cool.
I love that.
And that is happening next Thursday, March 27th, 6 p.m., not the Balkansky room, but actually in the main floor atrium. how incredible. Are any of the performers the descendants of, any of the
Yeah.
soldiers, any of the ladies?
They are not the performers, but there will be 2 people in attendance who are descendants of those that left with this flag. So we are super excited for them to come. We'll take a bunch of pictures. Unfortunately, their relatives were not any of them that returned. They were killed in the war effort. But this flag not only has special meaning for them at a family level, but just that we continue to tell its story, the lessons that we can learn from it, and the hope for the future, right? That's why we learn history. That's why we study it, because we want to learn from it, learn from this flag, and learn from those efforts of those brave women too that crafted this flag, fundraised, went to Chicago, and that woman who donated her white silk.
I know. I have so many questions, like so many questions.
Yes, me too.
Tim, what else would you like people to know?
Sitting somewhere,
Say that again, Amy.
If anyone has like a record, or maybe hidden in their attic, like this woman had to have told somebody.
Right. Like, did it come from her dress? Did she have to take it from underneath? Did she have to make alterations, or was it for some other part of her,
There's
Well,
so
according
many
to the story, right, it never got to the dress phase. She had bought it to get her dress made. So it wasn't, if it was the wedding dress, that would be even better. If they, dismantled the wedding dress, she's like, I'll need this sometime, but this is more important. The story is just so great. And Tina, you asked if there's anything people should know. Obviously, I missed that it said Balkansky Room on the promotional graphic, but it'll be very obvious. When you come into the library, the audience will be set up. The chairs for the audience is there. The replica flag will be there. People won't have to travel very far to know they're in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that it's a replica flag that will be there, people can take photos, selfies with it, all that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yep. And our reenactors will all be dressed up in the part, so it'll be very noticeable.
I will probably be dressed very similar to how I am now. But no, when Amy approached me, there was never even a thought that we wouldn't do it, because it just makes such absolute sense. And I'm a huge fan of history. And when you can make it living history, so that, not only is it, are you creating your, improving your knowledge on a topic, it's also entertainment. And I think when you combine the two, it really tends to stick really well with people that see it. So I encourage everyone who can make it down to make it to the library next Thursday, starting at 6 p.m. But, get there early so that we know how many more chairs we have to set up apart from the initial ones we set up.
And it's such an important reminder, too, that we remember, the folks that established this community that were living at that time believed so much in our way of life that they were willing to march off to war, to send their loved ones off to war, right? And the self-sacrifice, like the woman with the wedding silk, it's just, it's incredible and inspiring. And I'm so excited to hear that you're going to be doing this reenactment.
We are too.
Amy, what else? Is there anything else you'd want to tell people before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, this is just one story of many, obviously, from our local history. And even when you look at the Civil War and our stories here in Manitowoc, each of those men that went off to fight, whether which side they were on at the time, they had a mission, they had a purpose, and they have a story too. And we can learn so much from those journals and the diaries from both men and women at that time period. So I encourage everyone, look into your own family story. You might actually be a descendant of someone who left with this flag and you don't even know it. So we will have the list of the 104 that originally left. So you may find your own family roots with this flag as well.
Oh, how fascinating. Wow. So you too can be a part of history and take it all in with this reenactment a dramatic reading, a replica flag on display. This is happening Thursday, March 27th at the Manitowoc Public Library. The Manitowoc County Historical Society is going to recreate the presentation of the Company A flag that was made and presented to them in 1925. This is for the 100th anniversary. How cool. I love that you guys are doing this. And thank you for coming on Coffee on the Coast to share this with everyone.
Thank you for helping to tell its story.
Yeah, thank you, Tina.
You bet. Keep it going. Thank you, everyone, for watching today. I'm your host, Tina Prigge, joined by Tim Gadzinski of Manitowoc Public Library and Amy Meyer of Manitowoc County Historical Society. We'll see you all next time. Take care.